Mhm.
Hey, Andrew.
Hello. Hey, how you
Hey,
doing?
hey, how's it going today?
Oh, a little frustrated. A
Why is
little
it?
frustrated. Well, I got. Um, I've been telling you a little bit about the 3D printing I'm getting into, and
Right.
um, gonna have a little print farm here one day, and all this stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I was getting back into. I was going to start printing my first part for my product,
Right.
and it just something changed, and I don't know what it is.
Hmm.
And we were talking moments ago about
Hmm.
getting into a flow, and then this is like this is the total contrast to being in a flow. This is just, or you might want to call it a flow of frustration. It's like
It
kill
sounds sounds like it, yeah. Like a
because
bottleneck or something. A bottlenecking
exactly,
effect,
it's
constricting or
like I
something.
want, and the flow that I want is the cool thing about 3D printing
Yeah.
is you can take something from your mind, you can take something you imagine,
Right.
you can use the interface of design software,
Right.
and then you can send it to the printer, and then
Yeah.
you can hold in your hand what was in your imagination. That's the flow I want to get into,
That's pretty
but I'm
amazing.
stuck because I've hit this challenge because I'm still fairly new to
Hmm.
3D printing. I just can't tell what change is preventing me
Ah.
from moving forward, but I thought it would tied in nicely to what you wanted to talk about today, so
Hmm.
I wanted to throw that out there.
I
How
like
you
that.
doing?
I'm doing really good, and I'm sorry that you're going through that because I was actually looking at something the other day where they were making chess pieces out of the 3D printing, and the knight was
Oh
just
yeah,
especially fascinating, right? The knight, it had all these little like threads of the whatever, what is the medium
the
anyway?
filament.
Okay, the filament, yeah, sorry, yeah,
Yeah, filament.
exactly. It was just like this network of filament. It was beautiful.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really
So
cool.
so you're making your breathing device um the new
Yeah, the
variation.
recreation
Hmm.
of the Breathe Easy instead of sourcing my parts, I'm redesigning the product so that I can create my own parts,
Mm.
and then that way I can be in a constant um, excuse me. I can consistently make improvements.
Right,
Excuse me. Versus right now, to make changes to the design is extremely expensive
right,
because not only expensive because of the molds that have to be made, but because it might not work the improvement that I thought was going to work
right.
with 3D printing. Holy, I mean, it's just it's I can continuously do iterations of a design, and I can within an hour or two I can hold it in my hand and I can test it and I can see the
Wow.
limitations of my thinking.
Wow.
But the constant improvement is just it's a fascinating way of
Yeah,
taking something what I would call zero dimension or one dimension or two
right.
dimensions and make it into three dimensions. It's fantastic. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can only imagine. It's well, I can relate it to other things like I guess like music for instance, where just all of a sudden
Oh yeah.
I'll be like in a flow state where I um just create something, but then I can never recreate it
Hmm.
again. And I wouldn't even be able to tell anybody how I did it. You
Wow.
know?
And as you're saying that with where there was no music, you created something original.
Hmm.
It's like, and then I'm thinking with what I just said, it's like I was
Right.
taking something that didn't exist and make it exist, but I made it exist in three dimensions. I'm trying to
Exactly.
think of how to describe what you created out of nothing, and it became, um, became sound waves. It became,
Right. Exactly. A song
you know,
or like a feeling. You really create
yeah,
music is really about creating feeling.
and I'm trying to give it a name,
Yeah.
because it's easy for like a 3D plastic object to call it 3D.
Yeah, it's not really a
What?
song though, you know what I mean? I call it like a musical mandala. It's something that you like the sand paintings, the elaborate Tibetan Buddhist sand
Mm-hmm.
paintings, and they
Yeah.
sweep them up after they finish them, you know? Uh,
I, I
similar
saw a
idea.
great example of that. I saw a great example of that down in Guatemala, and
Hmm.
it was a shame to know that it was only temporary. It was so beautifully done.
Was it
But what?
oh yeah. Was it one of those? I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, those are really
Oh
beautiful.
yeah. No, it was made out of sand. It was really intricate. It looked like this really
Wow.
beautiful tapestry. And knowing
Yeah.
that it was temporary, all the work that it went into it,
Hmm.
and then it disappeared. But then connecting it to the music,
Yep.
the the music is like a even
Same idea.
It's the same idea. It was created and then it disappeared.
Yeah, so I call it a musical mandala because it's like it's a meditation when you're doing it. You're releasing something. You're visualizing something when you're doing it too. Like you actually see
Mm-hmm.
you see visions in your in your mind's eye of things. It's basically like a daydream basically. And you can lead it kind of how the music is feeling. It sort of leads it, and then you can lead the music and vice versa. It's really intricate.
And then I guess it's stored in the memory that you remember. You remember what you just experienced, but then you're saying you don't necessarily know how to recreate it.
And remember the last time that you and I spoke when we
Mm-hmm.
when we recorded that last podcast together? Well,
Yeah.
there was a time in the podcast you were asking me what you had just been talking about, and it was
Mm-hmm.
it was weird because I know I was focused on what you were talking about the whole entire time, but I could not for the life of me tell you what you had just said because it broke the flow for me.
Me neither.
Yeah.
But I did remember later.
Okay.
But much later, hours later. But I don't want to. I don't want to get back to that topic.
No, it's all good. But that's.
And then I was just thinking was the musical mandala, or however you just called it.
That's what I said.
When we were in Spain a couple of years ago, and we went down to Sevilla to the home of flamenco dancing.
Right.
We were in like one of the original theaters where they would do the flamenco, and I didn't know that the female dancer is completely improv, and everything that's done around her, the music and the male dancer is improving based on her improving.
Right.
So a flamenco performance, it's never duplicated. It's not rehearsed. It's nothing. It's just she's going with her flow.
Yeah.
And everyone else is as instantly as they can complementing her flow. And it was just fascinating. It's just a perfect.
I love stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. Wow is the only way to put it because stuff like that is just. I like the idea just in general of getting into flow states where you're not really thinking about what you're doing at all, actually, and then afterwards not knowing how to express what you just did. Like, I know that with sparring, like, I don't do a ton of it anymore, but I was doing it for a while, and what would happen is I never got into any actual, I never did any, like, amateur fights or anything like that, but I wasn't going for that at all, but the point is, just when you're training that, and you're sparring with somebody, it's basically like a mock fight, okay? And it can get pretty intense sometimes, but you don't really know what you just did or what they just did. Like, did I just punch you in the eye? I don't know, or
Right.
You don't know what just happened until afterwards. You can really reassess it, and then so.
Well, what do you think are the conditions? What are the conditions you need to get into a flow state? How do you do it consistently if you can at all?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's hard to say, but the way I do it, for me, what works is what I did this morning when we were trying to do that recording out. When I went outside, I was trying to do a recording with you in the park, and that didn't work, obviously. So, but I ran there as a way of getting into a flow state, getting some endorphins going, waking up a little bit, right? And going and get some fresh air. And I've been very congested over the week too because of allergies, right? And I know my brother was trying to convince me it wasn't allergies. There's something going around apparently. But but anyway, yes, allergies made me very congested over the last few days from the cedar that's in the air over here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this time of year it's just pretty bad apparently. So, and I've had allergies since I was a kid, so I'm like, oh great, my sinuses are all blocked up, so I figured I'd go for a run, clear them out, get on the call with you, and not be all congested sounding,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it did clear me up, but then having to run back was pretty amazing because I was in a rush to get back because I knew you had a limited amount of time. So I was thinking, okay, I'll rush up this hill. And it's a pretty steep hill that I like to go up quite often. I got to the top of the hill and I literally forgot that I had gone up the hill just then. I was actually thinking for 1 second, I literally thought, where am I right now? And do
Hmm.
I still? Oh, I still need to run up the hill. Oh, I just ran up the hill. Oh, I know where I am.
Exactly.
You
Oh
know?
yeah, I do that when I'm driving, and I almost miss an exit. And
Yeah,
or for a moment I have no idea where I am, even though this is the same highway I always drive.
exactly. Road hypnosis, they call
Yeah.
it.
Oh, I had a story that came to mind on the flow state. Or as you know, I'm an airline pilot, and
Yeah.
a long time ago, maybe like almost 20 years ago, I was flying the plane into LaGuardia.
Oh,
It was a
cool.
day with about 50-mile-an-hour winds, which means it's going to be really, really bumpy, especially that wind pouring over Manhattan and
Right.
becoming really turbulent. So very, very close to the runway. I'm thinking, um, not that I'm not in control of the airplane, but in terms for the purposes of landing, it's like this is just too bumpy. This is too rough. I think it's a clear sunny day. It's just windy,
Right.
and I think okay, well, we just abort the landing attempt. We come back around and we try it again.
Sure.
In the blink of an eye, all of a sudden my hand brings the engine power to idle,
Yeah.
and I do a perfect landing on the runway.
Nice.
And I'm like, I had the last thought I had was I'm
Yeah.
about to take the airplane up and around again.
Oh, wow.
All of a sudden I'm on the ground.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Talk about
And
talk about road
I felt
hypnosis. Road hypnosis to,
well,
to
well,
the extreme.
well. I don't. I'm not sure I would call it a hypnosis. I would just say I observed me landing the airplane perfectly.
Yeah, like an out of body
When
experience, kind of, right?
when rationally the conditions are such that it's like, what, it's a little too bumpy, too close to the ground.
Don't do it.
Just come back around because
Yeah.
it might be a little bit calmer next time around. No
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah. No
No
big
big
deal.
deal.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, my right hand on the throttles comes back to idle. Perfect landing on the runway.
That's really beautiful. Yeah. And it's cool cool ending.
Well, and I'm just thinking, was that some kind of flow state that just happened?
Absolutely.
It's
Wouldn't it be?
it's just something that I
Have to
just
be.
or as I'm approaching the runways, I've often noticed how like I say again in visual conditions and stuff,
Right.
it's like how do I end up rolling out lined up with the runway 5 miles out, which is the normal distance,
Right.
right on the proper angle, right at the proper speed, as though the airplane's on rails. And to me, I would consider that a flow state that
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Have to be. Have to be in some sort of
because
state to do that. That's not
it
a
just
normal
and it's
thing.
fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to
Amazing.
watch. It's fun to watch because that's what happens in our conversations is
Yeah.
you'll be saying something and I can tell that was
Yeah.
the joy. I can the way your voice is, your enthusiasm.
Right.
It's like this is an original. What's coming out is original. It's not being repeated. It isn't something that
Mm-mm.
came from a book somewhere. And I know the feeling when I do it. It's like, and you
I can't
mentioned
do
the
it. Yeah.
endorphins. I wonder if the endorphins are kind of a trigger because for me the endorphins kick in when I'm in a position where I'm so authentically myself.
Oh yeah. Well, that's how I feel when I'm running. I feel like exactly like you described right there. I'm just in a state of mind where everything is just I'm completely in control of everything, like literally everything,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a good feeling to be in that space, And
I'm wondering if the flow state of running is that what I call the body animal is being itself. That this body is, just like a little, baby bird knows how to fly by instinct,
right,
and that perhaps the body animal that I call it, that I'm occupying,
right,
that is a natural. That's an instinctual thing for this body to do is run.
right.
So when it is running, it's being itself.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean,
It's
it
being
makes total
authentic.
sense. Yeah.
Same thing in a sexual moment. It's being itself. So
Yeah.
time, the clock's you don't notice the clock because you're not in the logical, rational, categorizing,
Right.
existence. Time is stopped because you're not counting the seconds anymore because
Exactly. Yeah. The Zen
we're
state.
not using. Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's what we're talking about here.
And that sounds like everything that I've ever heard. Like, I believe Alan Watts or other people
Oh
talk
yeah, like
about. Yeah, oh, he was great. And yeah. So, well, on that note, I mean,
hmm
I used to listen to quite a bit of, and I still do, but techno or trance music, to be specific, that I would listen to while I run. And
hmm
I was doing this up in Idaho for a while, where I would put some on with Alan Watts recorded in the background. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, and it was just really, profound experiences you're having when you're out there having these enlightenment moments through this guy's voice and his words
Right.
and the music that somebody chose that all by itself was uplifting and energizing.
I find Pink Floyd is my go-to place
Yeah, I love Pink
for
Floyd. Yeah.
yeah, because it's original, the lyrics are original, so it's telling a story. Perhaps whoever wrote the lyrics was in a flow state,
Yep.
um, maybe an induced flow state of some sort.
It's quite possible with them.
Psychedelic rock and all that stuff,
Yeah,
and then the music, it's all original. They created the music, they created the lyrics. It's
right.
a expression of 4 or 5 people that are really all of them being themselves, producing something that meshes beautifully together, and then it becomes one of their
Yep.
hit songs or something. And I can just listen to Pink Floyd. I mean, all day long.
They're
And
amazing. Oh, have you seen them? I haven't seen them.
I
I've seen
I never seen
Laser
them in person.
Floyd. I saw Laser Floyd.
Oh yeah.
Well,
No.
at the planetarium, and I absolutely loved it. But yeah,
Well,
big fan of Pink Floyd.
what are the conditions that prevent you from getting in a flow state? Do you think?
For me personally, I would say just not not being relaxed enough. Um,
hmm
Basically, a friend of mine that was really brilliant and understood how to get into flow states told me that, just you have to be relaxed. It's basically remember to relax, remember to breathe, and
hmm
just and smile too, because that if you're smiling, stretching, relaxed, and
hmm
breathing, you're probably going to be pretty healthy. And I've seen people that were just, people that are close to me that were very unhealthy at certain points, and they were
hmm
so locked up, their bodies were literally clenched. And I would tell them, I've told them on multiple occasions, I've had to tell people this before, to just stretch. No, don't do that to yourself because you're not, breathe and stretch. And they
hmm
usually feel a lot better after that, you know, just, it's a
Yeah.
tension thing.
Well, from my breathing, because I study a lot with breathing with my breathing trainer product.
Right.
And one thing I learned from Patrick McKeown, who wrote the book Oxygen Advantage, is, I knew about the fight or flight, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system and that kind of thing. But what I didn't realize, it's like I knew that stress breathing was chest breathing, stress breathing is mouth breathing. What I didn't realize is that if I intentionally breathe through my nose, that brings me into a relaxation. If I intentionally breathe through my mouth, that creates a sense of anxiety, where I thought it was especially for the mouth breathing, it was the opposite. I'm breathing through my mouth because I'm anxious about something. Okay, fine.
Mm.
But if really the circumstances are not such where they should be causing stress, like right now, it's a beautiful sunny day in South Florida.
Yeah, lucky.
The bills are paid. There's there's
Lucky.
there's food in the fridge. There's nothing for me to be anxious about.
No, things are good.
So what I found out was my chronic mouth breathing, which wasn't happening because I was stressed out about something. It was because my sinuses were clogged too easily.
Mm.
I didn't know my sinuses were clogging too easily because I was mouth breathing. In other words,
Yeah, it's a circle.
if I just would breathe through my nose would not clog. So all these years, maybe 20 years of mouth breathing, because my nose is always clogged,
Hmm.
I was actually keeping my body in a stressful state
Wow.
because I was mouth breathing. The fact that I was mouth breathing was a trigger for the brain to
Mm.
kick me into fight or flight. And
Wow.
when I figured this out a year ago,
Mm.
I went to nose breathing almost all day and all night.
Yeah, I'm working
I
on that
noticed
too.
that, I'm so much calmer. I'm not as sensitive to light and to noise like I was, and to smell, because in fight or flight, your senses are amplified so that you can do better to protect yourself, running from the saber-toothed tiger or whatever.
Right.
I noticed that I wasn't as sensitive to light or smells or sound.
Hmm.
And so I was causing my own problem simply by not knowing how to breathe properly. I
Wow.
fixed it, and so much has changed. It's amazing. But go ahead.
No, that's awesome,
It's,
and I have to concur with that. I think that's the right way to
mhm.
say that. I concur.
Oh, so how this ties in? It just came to me
Oh,
was
tell me, yeah,
I'm not going to be able to easily get into a flow if I'm breathing through my mouth, and that was the trigger for me to think this is what you said exactly. That
exactly,
is to get into that flow state, to in through the nose, out through the mouth. I mean, that's what we're taught in martial arts. Um,
exactly.
so then you get into a flow state as you perform um, your routines and stuff, or
Hmm.
your sparring.
Exactly.
That makes so it's it's really cool.
It
So
is
yeah, to
cool.
get in the flow state, breathe through the nose. You have to
Absolutely.
breathe through the nose.
Well, I've noticed such a transition from not having the same abilities to do certain things since I started to work on nose breathing primarily.
Hmm.
So that's what the problem last night and the last few days, because of the cedar in the air. Like I was saying, my nose has just been swollen inside from the pollen, and it's
Hmm.
okay. It's starting to get a little better today. So I figured, well, I need to get out before doing a podcast today and actually get my get that nose breathing going again, get my legs moving, get the chi or the energy, body bioelectric energy in the
Hmm.
body moving through the body, get the lymph moving, I guess is what you would probably say.
Hmm. Sure.
I'm no expert, but but anyway, so
Hmm.
but and then once you get that going, I'm a little congested right now. I can sense it coming back a little bit, but that's
Hmm.
I think just moving and focusing on breathing and doing a little bit of acupressure too
Hmm.
in the area is not a bad idea too. To get those sinuses going. Uh,
Sure. Well, for me to be able to start consistently breathing through my nose, I found out that a great way to start is to in the shower, to really really clear out my sinuses. Really, whatever gunk accumulated through the night, or
right,
if I'm taking a shower before bed. And what I had to do is also for sleeping is some people might have heard about mouth taping as a way to remind your body, your brain, your whatever you want to call it, to keep the mouth closed while sleeping, because that was another problem I had. Is I would wake up with a dry mouth with chapped lips. I would put on the lip balm, in the middle of the night,
right,
and after about a month of gently taking just a little piece of tape
right.
to just keep my mouth from opening, um, I didn't have to do it anymore. And so I never wake up with a dry mouth anymore, and my sleep got so much better. It's amazing.
Well, that's really cool. And
Hmm.
I think we have somebody joined us here. We have Chris Butler in the room here. Hi, Chris. How
Oh,
you doing today?
hey.
Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, hey, Wim Hof. Yeah, I went to his, Chris was saying, I used the Wim Hof method. I saw Wim Hof 2.5 years ago in Miami. I took his course. Really cool guy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that'd be amazing
Yeah.
to meet him. Yeah.
The,
So yeah, we're talking
so
about
we're,
breathing trainers and breathing through the nose and
and how to use nose breathing to trigger a state of relaxation so that you can get into a flow like a meditation, or getting prepared for martial arts sparring, to get into a position where basically you become an expression, an authentic expression.
yeah, flow states basically. Finding your flow. How to how to figure out how to get into those optimal states where you don't have to really think about what you're doing. Things just are sort of, progressing and happening almost.
It's like they're on autopilot.
Literally.
But the interesting thing is when I feel like I'm observing what's coming out of my mouth,
Right.
and I'll be like, where'd that come from? Where did that come from? And that's the fun part for me. The fun part of being in the flow is when something new to me, completely original to me, because it's never something that came out of a book.
Right.
It's always something that came out of my experiences, extremely relevant. But I couldn't believe that just came out of my mouth. That's the part that's the fascinating part.
It's cool.
And
when
then
it happens,
and then what I did was, I over the summer especially, getting the new house up in North Carolina set up and stuff.
Right.
I like to listen to long form, like interviews or long form podcasts.
Right.
And so Jordan Peterson, I came back around to Jordan Peterson, and I started listening to his lectures rather than his interviews. And I'll never listen to another Jordan Peterson interview after that, because when he gets into the lecture, he gets into his flow. By the time he's done, 2.5 hours later, he's absolutely exhausted. And he's a whole different person when he's not being interrupted by a host.
That's the
whole
good
different
stuff right
person.
There. That's the good stuff.
Oh man, the stuff he comes up with is just fascinating.
That's really
really fascinating. So
yeah, I think it's essential. I mean, that people take the time to actually discover that it's not that far away. It's literally it's always a present thing. Basically, it's only in the present, because if you're thinking in the past or in the future, you're not in that flow state. There's just no way for that to work. And
you definitely have to be around people where you can be yourself.
Exactly.
You just can't, in the middle of a shopping mall, it's all busy and all this kind of stuff. I mean,
it's very difficult. Not impossible, probably, but not conducive, I guess you would say.
I got a question for Chris. Are you still there, Chris?
I think we might have. Might still be here. But might have lost them. That's all right though.
Excellent. Okay. So, any other thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that it's one of those things where I wanted to do a show today just based on, not having you asked me to come up with something for it, and I was thinking, you know what? I just want to see what seems like the most natural thing. And I was thinking, well, isn't this the whole point of everything,
Yeah. That's me.
Oh, cool. All right.
I was just curious if he started my product because I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's all right. No, that's fine. So yeah, I mean, it's just that, exploring something without having a set destination really, or even a starting point, and then just, because I always like, I mentioned it, last time I spoke with you, how I like to meet somebody and then find something in common to talk with them about too, because I could go forever on nothing, I think.
Chris brought up the Wim Hof breathing method.
Right.
When the first time I tried it at home, I noticed. Well, see, I kind of go back to Stancil Goff, I think his name is. He came up with holotropic breathing as a way of getting into like otherworldly psychedelic experience just through breathing. And when I did the Wim Hof, breathing method, it felt like very similar to Stancil's breathing method. Right. And then went to Wim Hof's training when he came in Miami. I would clearly felt like I was in a dream state, extremely relaxed, extremely comfortable. His technique is phenomenal.
Right.
Highly recommend it. The thing I could not get myself to do was get into that ice tub that he had. He had the port.
He brought it with
Well,
him.
the problem was I was going to be getting in that tub after about 300 people already went through there.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That's
like,
fun.
I can do it.
Yeah.
I'm not a germaphobe, but I'm kind of like,
No,
I can do this in a bathtub.
no,
I'll do this on my own time somewhere else.
That's where you draw your limit.
So,
No. Yeah.
it was funny, but wow,
Funny.
what a fantastic, and as I've become more and more acclimated to proper breathing, which I have to do for my, so I can write my blog posts for my,
Right.
My breathing trainer. I'm always looking for something new on breathing that just the average person doesn't know. And then I find out how much I don't know when
Right.
you really get into these top experts.
Right.
It's like, like the prana, like in the Eastern culture,
Right.
they talk about the prana, that breathing is life, that breath is life.
Right.
It really is. I mean, the base nutrition. And look at when you go into, let's say, an emergency situation, what do the paramedics put you on? They put you on oxygen. They
Right.
put you on a gas. They put you on a gas to save your life.
Wow.
So if you want to think of oxygen as nutrition, and if you're malnourished of oxygen,
Right.
so how are you going to get the oxygen? Well, you're going to breathe it. So, an important way to have what you need to live in terms of nourishment is through breathing. First breathing. If you don't breathe, 4 minutes later, you're gone.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, think about the placement of the nose on the face too. It's very prominent for a reason. You're supposed to be getting oxygen in it. So.
And not only that, there's some redundancy. You can breathe through your mouth or you can breathe through your nose.
Absolutely.
So if your nose is clogged up, something happens, you've got backup.
You got a backup. And I've been experiencing that this week too with the congestion from the allergies, like I've been saying. So it's like. I had to resort to mouth breathing for a few days, which really, otherwise I'm feeling great, right? But but I don't like to breathe through my mouth because I feel like I just can't think straight. I literally, it basically.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It manually turns you into fight or flight, and I didn't know that until a year ago.
Right.
I say, I thought the stressful state was triggering mouth breathing, but if I mouth breathe just because,
right,
I triggered a stressful state.
Wow.
So you have to nose breathe to be calm and free of anxiety and stuff. To reduce anxiety, the person has to stop mouth breathing. Period. Yeah. And including 100%. In exercise as much as possible to limit exercise to the intensity where they can still breathe through their mouth. As soon as they start, through their nose.
Yeah.
As soon as they start breathing through their mouth, they start to get weak.
Exactly.
They start to lose energy. They start to exhale too much CO2. And exhaling too much CO2 also means less oxygen absorption, less oxygen released from the hemoglobin. So there's less oxygen going out from aerobic metabolism. So then it becomes a fatiguing situation. So the top athletes are taught to only breathe through their nose. As soon as they go to the mouth, they're going to lose. They're going to get weak. They're going to slow down. They're going to lose the fight, whatever they're doing.
Yep, and I can speak to that myself. I mean, like when I learned that from you, I started to ride my bicycle up this hill, very steep hill, the one I was talking about running up today.
Sure.
That hill is so fun. I love hills because of the flat ground. You're working.
That's boring.
Yeah, they're boring. You're working on the flat ground, right? But when you get to the hill, for some reason, just leaning into it gives me some sort of something to dig into. I can actually fight my way up it. There's nothing to fight other than yourself when you're running on flat ground, or some wind or something, headwind, But so what I discovered though, was that the nose breathing only, which I'm not doing right now. I'm very, congested again. I can feel it, and it's not. But the point is when I'm out there moving my legs, my nose is clearing up, and I'm only breathing through my nose, and I'm getting so pumped up with energy from it. I taught my little kid this, right? He's running with me, and I'm telling him, breathe through your nose, because I was telling him how your sinus cavity is very large. It's like the size of a fist inside there. Somebody said recently on another podcast somewhere they were talking about this.
Sure.
And so basically, breathing through your nose into this cavity it's just profound what it does, because it releases, I believe, nitric oxide. Is that correct?
Yeah, nitric oxide. Yeah,
And yeah, you just
which you know
you feel so much energy from it.
a lot of people know that nitric oxide opens up the airways. It also damages pathogens that you're inhaling.
Wow.
It's because nitric oxide is considered smog if it's outdoors.
Oh wow. So we have
but in the body.
We have our own.
Yeah.
We have our own vaccine in our nose.
Right, and that's what really bothers me about the mask, is that the nose is the mask. The nose is nature's surgical mask. The nose is the filter for either catching the pathogens or damaging the pathogens. And that's why we have all the sinus fluid. They say like we could be passing through about a liter of sinus fluid in a day,
right?
Because that's to rinse off the stuff that's been caught and take it down the throat, into the stomach and killed by the stomach acid.
Wow.
That's a trap. We got these hairs called the cilia. There's little ridges in the sinuses called that create a turbine,
right?
Like a vortex effect to like spin out particles into the sinus fluid.
Okay.
And nitric oxide is there to open up airways and blood vessels, but it's also there to do damage to the pathogens.
Oh wow.
It's like, so it's very, we're wearing all these masks and stuff, and it's like very, very frustrating. So what I do in the few times where I just have to wear a mask and I can't go into the store or something like that, I don't cover my nose. I just breathe through my nose.
I've been doing the same.
So,
been doing the same because I literally unable to not sometimes.
Because I don't
wear glasses.
I don't want to
get fogged up.
Yeah, and I don't want to inhale all that bacteria and fungus and all that stuff that's growing in that mask. I just put it on for show.
It's not meant to be recycled like that. It's not healthy.
It's horrible.
It's not.
It is so unnecessary. We just need to be nose breathing. That's all. Just breathe through the nose and
cover your mouths if you have to. Sorry.
But in the context of the topic today, getting into the flow state, the more we're talking about proper breathing, the more I can see the moments where when I get into a flow state, it is because I'm breathing. I'm breathing through my nose. Period. I'm breathing through my nose.
Yep.
And then what I notice is if let's say I'm sharing with somebody and I'm doing too much of the talking, I start to get kind of anxious. As we're speaking here today, I've wondered, why would I be getting anxious while I'm speaking freely? Because the person is interested in what I'm hearing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's because in speaking I'm breathing through my mouth.
Ah, okay.
So there needs to be gaps in the speaking so I can go back to breathing through my nose often enough to keep me in a relaxed state. If I go off on a tangent and I start running with an idea and I go too many breaths, I start to feel anxiety build up, and it's because I'm mouth breathing.
That's a very interesting concept, and it's something that only would have happened here because there is no other way to have that realization other than right now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I wasn't thinking that before this phone call.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's evidence of the flow state we're talking about right there.
Exactly.
Manifesting
stuff that comes out.
Well, I have to add something about flow, because last night I was recording some stuff on a piece of software that I have on my phone, or an app, if you want to call it that. Right? And so I was in a flow state because it was a very deep flow state, because there was no way that I was able to do stuff that I was doing naturally. But I've been doing some animations totally separate from this stuff, just as I have a little stylus. I've been playing around. I use my phone for pretty much everything like this, right? Creativity.
Sure.
So I got a stylus for my phone, this little electric stylus. You turn it on and you write on your phone, right? So, but I'm doing the individual cells for animation with it. And very poor animation, all right. But I like the process of the meditation of the repetition and the very slight changes and trying to learn to make something flow. That's an amazing thing in itself. So I'm trying to take that as a cross training for other things. because I don't think
Uh-huh.
I'll ever master that. Maybe if I do, that'll be great. But if I don't, it's okay because I get the skill to use elsewhere. So
That's true.
it manifested last night because in a really positive way because I was recording some music and I was doing it in a way I was laying some tracks down and in a program that I'm very familiar with, but had
Hmm.
only used it to track things and arrange them in this one manner only one time before. And it was a complete song. It had part A, part B, part C, part D.
Sure.
And to get it to do that, I had to be in a flow state because I've been avoiding doing something like that because getting into that state where I was just all right, you click this, click this, click this, click this, click this. You know,
Hmm. Hmm.
there's hundreds of clicks that you're doing, and then by the time you get it, it's great. But then what happened was that I tried to add effects to it, and then it crashed. And then it came
Oh boy.
back and it took part B, part C, part D out of it. And then I was looking at it for a second. I'm like, wait a second. This is like
Hmm.
animation. All I gotta do is just redo the steps. And then I just went click, 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 got in that state again, just said, you know what? It was worth it. I'm gonna do it. And this is good practice. So I'm gonna do it. And then I did it and even getting the parts, part A, part B, part C, and part D to come out the way they did in the first place was a flow
Hmm.
because I swear I did not know why I was clicking certain buttons.
Wow.
I was saying add,
Exactly.
I was add, duplicate, it was add or duplicate. Oh, whatever, just hit add.
Uh-huh.
Okay, yep, that was right. Good. And then I remembered the name of the drummer I was using, and the drum
Hmm.
and the exact track he used, and I was thinking, oh, this is a pretty deep flow state. And the song came out better than I've recorded in a long time. But the
That's
caveat, the caveat here is that I can't play anybody but myself the version with the FX. I have to do it live.
hmm.
That's not to say I can't do it live. I just don't know how to do this with the software that I have on my phone, the app on my phone. I don't know how to produce this live, but I have a
Well,
version that's almost as good.
well, when you mentioned the word live, I got this vision in my head that said, right, the flow state is only live. It's never a script. It's never rehearsed. It's always live. So whatever you're doing has to be live.
Exactly. And I was
Does
able
that
to,
make sense?
it makes absolute sense. And I was able to capture most of that, but not the little, part that makes it really
Like
live,
an actor in a movie can't get into a flow state because what they're doing is almost completely scripted and
Well,
practiced and rehearsed.
well, to get into that, that's a very good point because I think what this makes me think about the method acting concept,
Hmm.
where they will become the character. Like
Hmm.
they'll go in, they'll rehearse the character, but then because they can't just get into a flow state, they literally become the character. They go home as the character. They live as the
Yeah, they have to immerse
character.
themselves.
Yep,
Yeah, and create a habit of being that character.
and they get into that flow state that way. And that's why the great
Hmm.
actors are that amazing to watch because they're literally that person. They're channeling that person, if it's a real
But
person
look,
or
look at what, look at what they had to do to get into. You know, they they had to do all of this immersion to to replicate the character and then flow versus a really truly authentic flow state, which is getting rid of all the acting, getting rid of all the pretending, and just being yourself.
I love
So
that.
it's
Yeah.
I
And
can see it. Mhm.
I was just saying I cannot argue with that at all. I love that. You want to get out of your own way basically to be your authentic self, and
Mhm.
and it's very easy to get in our own ways trying to emulate things
Mhm.
that we think are, hey, this is how somebody's successful, this is how somebody's healthy, this is how somebody's happy, and it's maybe you're not seeing that they're not completely in a real flow there. Maybe they're not that thing in reality too,
Mhm.
in reality, we all have to, I guess, to strive to get to that state of mind where we are in that, permanent flow state.
Sure.
That's the
And then
goal,
I
you know?
notice when I'm in the flow state, um, I'm no
Oh, lost the signal
longer
here.
really registering the environment around me.
Oh, I got you back.
It's there. My eyes are open. I can see the room is here and all that kind of stuff. But did I
Yeah.
fade?
No, no, no.
Did
The
you lose me for
signal,
a second?
yeah, just for a second, but you're back.
Hello?
Yeah, I got you back. You hear me all right?
Okay, cool.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I notice when I'm in a flow state that even though my eyes are open and I can see what's around me,
Right.
I'm not. It's just I'm not necessarily processing what's on the outside. I'm really inside myself. I'm really in my interior mindscape and my interior landscape. Um,
Right.
Through language and through emotion, animation, physical gestures, I'm really in a state of expression of my inner self to the outer. It's one thing to show a smile to someone that's authentic.
Exactly.
I think a flow state would be, okay, take that and let's take it to a whole different level where my authentic being, isn't this body. My authentic being is, what I see is an inner vision that's so hard to get out to somebody unless I can, let's say, create a product that I put my heart and soul into and it really reflects,
Right.
something or a brand, a brand of a company
Right.
that I
So,
created.
something that helps people that helps you at the same time, basically.
Yeah, it's like in my company, I'm the brand, and I realize, what's the brand? What does the brand really mean?
Right.
It means the person at the top. It's their. It should be. We shouldn't be selling products and services that are known to be harmful, or
Exactly. Yeah.
intentioned to be harmful,
Right.
or aren't providing good value. So,
Right.
so that means if I'm in a business where I'm sincerely trying to bring a product or service for the betterment of the customer and do it in a way that brings value, then I can flow as a brand. And the
Right.
brand is me. The brand is me in terms of how can I take that customer through an experience where not only do they feel like they got more for their money than they expected, but then they become a spokesperson for the brand because they're like to their friends and family, this is where you'll be treated like a human being.
Absolutely.
This is instead of an income unit or just a number. This is where there's a soul that is taking care of other souls or trying to do a very good job at it.
Well,
This is a place where we can do business as friends.
I could say that you are absolutely a friend too, and I met you through that, and through your business,
Yeah.
as we've said before that my wife contacted you and about
Mm-hmm.
one of your products and and the Breathe Easy product,
Yep.
and then
Mm-hmm.
but then you and I hit it off, and
For 6 hours.
for 6 hours the
first phone call is 6 hours.
Absolutely, yeah.
That was fun.
It was a lot of fun, and this is how this has turned out. We're doing a podcast together because
Yeah, now we're doing a podcast. That's really cool.
Pretty amazing.
Well, my friend, I've got a few more minutes left, and then I gotta head out. So.
Okay, that's
Oh, I was going to say one last point I want to make on the flow is, for me personally,
right.
Because when you're doing business and stuff, entrepreneurship, you have to be creative, or you have to pay someone to be creative. And I never found it satisfying to pay somebody else because they're putting their vision into my brand, and for me, it doesn't fit. So I do all my own branding, all my own graphics, all my own packaging designs, and stuff like that.
Right.
And for me to be able to focus, in other words, get into a flow,
right.
When I need to be creative, then I know that I have to be alone. I have to be in solitude. I can't have interruptions because I'm trying to go deep within myself. I can't be deep within myself and distracted by something in the five senses, because the five senses are saying, hey, look outside. Hey, look at that strange car going past the house. Hey, somebody just came in the room and they're asking me, hey, where do you want to go out for dinner?
Right.
I have to stay, for me to be creative, I have to get into a flow So that means I have to get into a meditative state,
Exactly.
even though I'm working with something like Photoshop or whatever I'm doing, or the 3D printing, the CAD program,
Right, right.
learning that kind of stuff. I have to be distraction free as much as possible. Otherwise, I don't attempt to do anything creative because I'm not going to get anything done. I'm just going to get frustrated.
Exactly.
And that's what I was saying, like with Jordan Peterson, I don't like to listen to his interviews
Right.
because of the constant interruptions. He's not able to get into a flow. He's only able to give sound bites.
But his lectures are the place.
His lectures.
Right.
Holy crap. Amazing. So.
Otherworldly. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to thank you for being here today and for doing that.
Oh, this is fun, man. Let's do it soon, okay?
We will. And thank you for everybody else that joined us today, too.
Yeah, that was great. Great to see Packers fan and Chris. That was awesome.
Absolutely. Great to have an audience. All right. Take care.
All right, buddy. We'll talk soon.